If you love your boxing and your MMA, this is the show for you. Fight Night Extra with myself, Ade Oladipo, alongside, as always, the great Gareth Davies. We are officially into fight week ahead of one of the biggest fight cards in the history of British boxing, headlined by AJ and Daniel Dubois, who will fight for the IBF heavyweight title of the world. The pair of us will get stuck into the fight in detail on where it will be won and lost. It's not just the main event that is drawing a crowd. There's also a very stacked undercard as well, featuring the likes of Hamza Shiraz, Josh Warrington, Joshua Boatsi, and many more. We're going to look over that in detail as well. Plus, we are going to recap Canelo Alvarez and discuss the UFC's debut in the Vegas Sphere. This is Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Gareth Davies, as is tradition, let's not break it today.
I've just been seeing you all week, basically. I saw you on my birthday. I saw you on Saturday night. We had a bite to eat before Fight Night and talkSPORT. I saw you yesterday. I'm seeing you this morning. I mean, it's getting to we got to stop meeting like this. No, the truth is, I have seen a lot of you, but it's been very domestic in terms of a giant Riyadh season edition Wembley card, and we've talked about it. And yesterday was the beginning of the fight week, and it was extraordinary to be there. Like you say, great to be around these guys yesterday, having spoken about them for so long. Didn't see Tyler Denny, and don't think I saw Padley yesterday. I don't know if you saw them, but I didn't see them. But I saw everyone else who's on the card.
Yeah, Tyler Denny, we was waiting to do an interview with him, as I'm guessing was talkSPORT. And we got the message around 7:30 that he's either stuck in traffic or he's not going to make it. And I thought that was disappointing, just because, again, this is a big moment for him. Obviously, let's not forget, he is the European middleweight champion. I think as a fighter, you want to be involved in all of this experience. So I don't know how that didn't kind of work out where he wasn't there. But yeah, hopefully he'll be there.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. I just think it was he's probably travelled down from the Midlands and hit the Wembley Hilton, because obviously those are the hotels around, if they're staying there. I think they normally are around the around the stadium. And then once you get there, it's another, at the moment, for where we were yesterday, Billingsgate, probably about another hour driving, hour and 20 minutes driving, and more,
and more. Yeah.
You and I both had to scurry around and find somewhere to park yesterday. What about your week?
Yeah, no, it's just been, again, meeting you far too much, if I'm honest with you. We met for your birthday, which was nice. I mean, you've always got to make sure you just toast to what has been a good year for both of us. And then obviously we did fight night with each other yesterday at Billingsgate, today this, and I say today this is going to come out on Wednesday. So we're filming this on a Tuesday. Me and Gareth are going to go to the grand arrivals, which are going to be spectacular at Leicester Square. But yeah, no, just looking forward to what's going to be a very exciting week. Obviously, we know that the Saudis don't do things in half measure, so I'm expecting this week to be spectacular. I really am. I mean, we've covered all of these Riyadh season events, and it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is probably not the biggest fight. Obviously, Fury Usyk's the biggest fight, but this is the biggest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's just going to pull out all the stops. We've felt it already. The security's deeper and thicker. The film crews are more. The Saudi Arabian film companies are here. The whole thing, even just on that scale yesterday, feels very, very much bigger. Knowing the venues that things are going to take place in this week, there's going to be a lot of iconography around it. You've seen the face-off pictures yesterday. They wanted a dramatic building. They've got Tower Bridge in the background. These are two towering characters, and it was great to be around the main eventers, Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua yesterday.
Yeah, both seemed in good spirits. One bit of news that did break last week, whilst we were just, I think, a few hours before we did Fight Night, was that Liam Smith was out of his fight with Josh Kelly, a virus, and every man and his dog put their hands up to step in and fight Liam Smith, and it is Ishmael Davis that gets the call. Unbeaten 154-pound fighter who was going to have a fight in October. So he's in some sort of shape. Obviously, look, he's not going to get into Josh Kelly type shape with a week to go, but he lives the life. It's good to see that. It's good to see Josh Kelly stand on the card. And for someone like an Ishmael Davies, whose story's been quite remarkable in the last 12 months, I mean, this is a fantastic way to top that story off.
I spoke to Adam Booth about this yesterday. Josh Kelly's trainer spoke to Josh as well. I'm sure you did. And he was saying, look, as soon as it happened, these kind of things happen in boxing. I said to Josh, let's move on. They'll find an opponent. Let's see where we go from here. We'll look back in 5 years' time and go, see, that was meant to happen. And I like the faith they've got in the process and what's happened. And I'm glad the fight's on the card because it's only a 6-fight card anyway, and without it, I think it would have left the cupboard a little bit bare, in spite of the fact it's a really good card.
Yeah, no, it's good. And look, good luck to both of them, and well done to getting that done very, very quickly as well. All right, look, we are going to talk about the Riyadh season card in depth, but I do want to talk about what happened over the weekend. Canelo Berlanga, obviously Canelo getting the job done. Normally, it's right for me to start at the top, right? But there was a middleweight fight between Erislandy Lara and Danny Garcia, which if you haven't watched, please don't, because it's the worst. It's maybe the worst middleweight title fight I've ever seen. It was embarrassing. Obviously, Lara, 41-year-old, Danny Garcia, I think 37, hasn't fought for a couple of years. And his dad just pulled him out after round 8 saying, look, this is just, what's the point? You just can't do this anymore. That's a title fight. I mean, you think of all the middleweights we've covered and you've covered over the last sort of 30 years. It's embarrassing for that to be a middleweight title fight. It was almost akin to a Southern Area, and that's maybe being disrespectful to a Southern Area level.
It was weird. I mean, Erislandy Lara has always been an evasive type of boxer anyway. He used the whole ring. I remember his fights with Canelo. Actually, he was a very evasive fighter. He gave Canelo a few problems that night, actually, in terms of his movement. But he's got that movement, as you say. He's 41. I thought he was older than that. Danny Garcia just doesn't seem to have it anymore. His father is a great character anyway, and I think he did the right thing. Not only that, I think that fight stopped, and I think I saw a few moans on Twitter that they had to wait another 45 minutes then for the Canelo fight. With dead air and filling, and I think we've discussed this recently, both on air and off air. That does boxing need to? I think we might have discussed it on Saturday night from memory. Does boxing need to look at the elements of how it does things, the ingredients, and make a change and not leave that dead air? For the people in the arena, I'd say, it's great to catch up, but at home, certainly at home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, if you're watching it in another part of the world, just doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, they used to be like fillers, didn't they? We don't really see them as much in boxing anymore. People just floats. Sorry, apologies. People just waiting in the background, just in case something happened. Just the in case fighters, but they're rarely used.
It is strange. Well, I mean, we might get a little bit of that on Saturday night if a couple of the fights that we're watching or reporting or broadcasting on at Wembley Stadium don't go the full distance, because I don't think.
Yeah, and there's a couple.
No, I don't think Joshua and Dubois are due in the ring probably till 10:30. Ring walks just after 10:15. Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's an age-old problem. You either got a card that's got too many fights on it, or there's too many gaps. And but I am in favour of shorter cards, if you like.
100%. All right, let's quickly give the 168-pound king a word. Canelo Alvarez got the job done against another young, unbeaten fighter. The previous young, unbeaten fighter was Jaime Munguia. I thought Edgar Berlanga tried his hardest. Obviously looked very inexperienced, very limited compared to Canelo. And in the end, Canelo saw out, not a comfortable victory, but saw out another victory. And I guess the immediate aftermath now is what next, right? That's the first question that's kind of asked of him when the mic's sort of, put in front of him. All right, you've done that. What next in May? and he was not very forthcoming, whether it be Benavidez. Crawford's name came up again, obviously, because His Excellency was sitting next to Crawford. What did you make of his performance, and what do you think should be
Berlanga,
next?
I think you've got to give some credit to Berlanga for kind of giving his all in there and trying to make it a fight. But we talked about this heading into it. It's levels. There's levels in the game, and it didn't heat up for us. It didn't heat up internally where you thought, wow, this guy's going to give it a real go and he'll push Canelo, an aging Canelo, to maybe didn't even look aging, to the limit. All he did was draw a bit of spite out of Canelo. That third round knockdown from nowhere, the left hook, just showed you how clever Canelo is as well and how off the pace Berlanga was. He pushed Canelo. I didn't like the headbutts. That was frustration. And Canelo gave him a clip for that, for his troubles. I think it was a dominant performance, as the scorecard showed, 117, 110. I thought it was wider than that. I agreed more with the 118, 109 twice scores. And Canelo is that kind of guy. He doesn't commit afterwards. He does that so often. We'll see what happens. I need to talk. I need to rest now. I need to go and see my family. I need to go and play golf. I need to go to Jalisco, Guadalajara, Mexico, to relax for a while. So we all know what he needs to do, Eddie, and you can spell it out right now.
Yeah, we need to see him in there against David Benavidez. That's what we want to see. That's what I think the fight public are demanding. I don't know how much he cares about the fight public and their demands, Canelo. And look, I said this to you on Fight Night. He's been doing this since he was 15. He's now 34. That's 19 years. So he's probably thinking, 1 second, I've done what you wanted of me for 19 years. Can I not do what I want to do now? And ultimately, I guess he can, because he has been doing it. He's not being stripped of belts apart from the IBF. They're letting him do what he wants to do. So he's in a position where he really can do what he wants to do. And it's going to be a case of who pays him the most. Does Turkey, I don't know, put up near 100 million for Crawford? Does Al Heyman and the team put up nearly 100 million for Benavidez? I guess it's going to bring
and as you rightly said a couple of weeks ago, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, he will wait to look at what happens between Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, the undisputed light heavyweight crown on October the 12th in Riyadh. And it's funny that because of the way his career's gone in the last year and a half, you said, and I kind of agree with you, if Bivol wins that, then he may well go for that fight. But if Beterbiev wins it, if Artur Beterbiev wins it, he might not. No, and that's based on Beterbiev is a smaller man than David Benavidez physically. Artur Beterbiev's 5'11". He punches like a mule, kicks. So we found ourselves saying, oh, I don't think he'll fight Beterbiev, but I think he'll fight Bivol based on styles and the way they do things. But I think he should be looking, whoever it is, at the winner of that fight. He'll get a massive payday. It will probably be in Riyadh, or it could be in Mexico, or it could be wherever the Saudi Arabians, the GEA and Riyadh season want it to be. But I think he should he may be looking at the winner, either man. He may be looking to spite David Benavidez as well and never face him. Because there's an element of that with really famous fighters who are incredibly wealthy. Sometimes they don't want to give the other guy the payday.
Yeah, no. I mean, I remember it over here, Ricky Hatton, Junior Witter. Sometimes you just don't want to do it. Amir Khan didn't want to do it for years with Kell Brook. You must I am the massive A-side. I'm not giving you anything. Yeah. There is a bit of that to it. So, maybe that is what's going on with Saul Canelo Alvarez. All right, you're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Still to come, we're going to have more on the UFC event in the Sphere. I say more, we're going to chat about it. And the collapse, by the way, of Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. That fight is finally off. But up next, we're going to get stuck into the huge main event this weekend as Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois face off at Wembley. Welcome back. You're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, fight week is upon us. The biggest fight possibly in British boxing history, the biggest fight card is only a few days away. And the man that headlines it, who's headlined so many big cards, is the former unified heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua. And he sat down with our very own Spencer Oliver.
Would I be at Wembley in front of 96,000 people if I was fighting someone in the top 100 or top 50?
Sure.
Probably not. But I've done it time and time again. That's probably why. Look, they don't like me.
They do.
They like
mate.
what I do. I fight the best.
Yeah.
One thing you're going to get from me in my career is he fought him, and him. And that's what we're supposed to do as fighters. I need to test myself because it makes me have thicker skin, makes my heart stronger, and makes me a better person because I know that I never ducked a challenge. It's tough, don't get me wrong. But I want these fights that make me not be able to sleep at night.
You get part of that elite group. You become a 3-time world heavyweight champion. Josh, at the beginning of the journey, would you have ever expected that?
I tell you what, just going back to training was a success because training's hard. You know, anyone that's been to a boxing gym for the first time, you got messages. I'm sure, Spence, I feel that killed me, that boxing session. So just going back again is a success in itself. Now to be going back to boxing, fighting, going again, it shows real character, and that's how I started. I just started off going to the gym with my cousin.
Sure.
It was really tough.
I remember the journey.
You know what I mean? Really tough, and we stuck with it, and we're here now.
Listen, you become 3-time world heavyweight champion. Box ticked.
I'm not
I've got to ask you.
You
know where I'm going with this one. You know what I go like. Fury Usyk go December 21st. AJ wins there. I know what I'm saying is undisputed. It was another one on that tick list, and you got a chance to do that if you come through on Saturday.
Then the 3 times don't mean anything anymore.
Oh no, it does, mate. It does, mate.
You're nothing until you become undisputed.
Well, listen.
AJ there, Gareth, talking about how comfortable he is now fighting in front of massive crowds. Obviously, look, we're hearing it will be 96,000 on Saturday. I mean, he's done this journey now so many times. I mean, Vladimir Klitschko, 90,000. Alexander Usyk at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 65. Joseph Parker at the Millennium Stadium, near 80. I mean, AJ walking out in front of stadium-filled crowds has now become the norm. This is what he does. If it's not stadiums, it's sold-out arenas. So he's way
absolutely.
Used
I was just looking at that. When you think he went from Manchester Arena with the win over Eric Molina to Klitschko in 2017 at Wembley, the Principality Stadium against Carlos Takam, Principality Stadium against Joseph Parker, back at Wembley for Alexander Povetkin, Wembley for Kubrat, Wembley Arena, actually, that was lockdown. And then, he goes back again. It's been a while. You know, Wembley Stadium, the last time was 2018 for him. But he's done Tottenham Hotspur in the meantime, as you mentioned, against Usyk. So 6 events, 60,000 plus people. I think he's also had his moments when it didn't work for him at Spurs. I think he was enjoying the occasion too much, if you recall, on the walkout. He was quite strange that day. He can be strange on fight day. But I think he's really up for this. I think he looks very composed. He seemed very happy yesterday. And I think he's used to that big occasion. But he can't afford to let any nerves that might be there affect him. Because my feeling was when we spoke to Daniel Dubois yesterday, the Dynamite Kid, Big Desperate Dan, he's surprised me a bit yesterday. I'll put it that way. Surprised me with how happy he was, because I wondered if he'd be pulled out of shape a little bit this week, given all the extra media duties that are involved with what is, as you rightly say, an enormous event.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation that about Daniel Dubois, because I kind of got the same thing. Obviously, I was doing some bits for DAZN, and he was just smiling. And I'm like, are you not nervous about this? I mean, you're going to walk out in front of 96,000. He's like, well, look, I've been doing this since I was 7. We've almost been prepping for this with my dad since I was a baby. And if you can't enjoy this, what can you enjoy? And he seemed very, very calm. He came into the room he walked upstairs. Like, obviously, AJ's got his entourage, right? AJ walked upstairs with his team. Dubois came up by himself. I was literally watching him walk up the stairs by himself, sat down, fun, jovial, then left. I was like, this is very interesting. I kind of, he went up again in my self-esteem. I was like, okay, he's very, very confident.
The timing's right, potentially, for him. This has come at the perfect moment. Maybe there is a perfect storm around him. And it certainly swayed me. I'd picked Joshua to win. It just swayed me back a little bit yesterday, saying, if this young man really, really does believe in himself now at the age of 26, and he's had Joshua as a target, and he's got the background knowledge of he had some very good spars against Joshua, obviously the ones that people often talk about that created havoc for Anthony Joshua. There's certainly, as we spoke about a couple of days ago, there's more pressure on Anthony Joshua to produce a victory in this for himself, for the narrative of the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
So, very impressed, very impressed.
What about the magnitude of the event? Obviously, look, you read out AJ's sort of stadium fights back to back to back to back to back. Dubois only had, in terms of being in a main event, one. That was against Alexander Usyk, and we saw how after 5 or 6 rounds, he kind of, I don't know, it crumbled a little bit. Let's just, for want of a better word. How's he going to handle walking out in front of 96? He's never done this walk. Never. Especially never done it as a champion.
I think the feeling he's got in him is that I'm going to relish this moment. I'm not going to worry about how many people are in there. I've got a job to do. I'm the Kingslayer. Joshua's been on my mind for a long time.
Yeah.
Like you say, that kind of surly air that he has sometimes, where you feel like you really are squeezing blood out of a stone with him, was not there yesterday. And it's lifted a cloud that I had over that. I'm glad you're saying that as well, because there was an impression that this young man believes he can go out there and do it, and that this is his moment. And 100%. That at 26, he could potentially right now take over the heavyweight division if he beats Anthony Joshua. He could have a rematch with Alexander Usyk.
Yeah.
I don't think Tyson Fury would want to fight him. Why would Fury want to fight Daniel Dubois at this stage in his career? He wants to win against Usyk. He wants to fight Anthony Joshua. So he's 26, Ade. And it feels like he's been around for years and years.
Yeah, he's as an athlete, he's in his absolute prime. He's had his knocks, he's had his ups and downs, and he's come through them. And like I asked him yesterday as well, like, if you beat AJ, are you aware of how big a superstar you will become? Like it's almost like the Highlander movies where you chop off the head and you take.
There can be only one.
He will literally take all that power. Yeah, it's that. It literally is that, and he would become a superstar. And there are so many incredible fights for him out there. Incredible fights. So, look, good luck to him. I really do think that he deserves. Look, he's been in the public eye, at least our eyes, for years, as you mentioned, since he was a kid, and now he's a fully grown man. He talks well. He can handle interviews now.
Yeah,
something he could never really do before. So I'm really impressed with him.
If he wins on Saturday night, it makes him a sporting superstar. But it's going to take a lot for him to cross over into the mainstream. He's going to be the guy that beat Joshua, first of all, on his home patch, 7 years after Joshua made that massive impact on the UK for the Vladimir Klitschko fight, that delivered in every way, that showed Joshua's second wind and stamina, his heart, his inexperience when he thought he'd won the fight. And he walked away with his arms in the air like Ali. But Klitschko rose again. He went down himself. He was in this dark tunnel for a round and a half, 2 rounds, evading all those massive hooks that Klitschko missed with, and then came back to win the fight. And I tell you, I remember how big it was. April the 17th, I think it was, 2017. I think it was April the 7th. It might have been April the 29th. It was in April anyway.
I think it was.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely in April. I will clarify it. It was April the 29th, 2017.
29th. Okay, yeah.
I remember that morning. I even went on the Today program on BBC Radio 4 to discuss it, because that's the politics program. Remember, on that Saturday morning, it was that big. It was front It was center pages and it was back pages of the newspapers. It was so big because there was an outpouring and the country wanted to talk about this phenomenon, Anthony Joshua, and where he'd come from and how he'd been an Olympic hero. Daniel Dubois will just be the guy that beat that guy, first of all. And he'll be known to sports fans.
Yeah.
And then I think his resonance could grow after that because he's quite little known. I mean, that superstardom is yet to come.
No, he is. He is. Everyone that asks me about this fight is saying AJ versus who? They obviously know it's AJ. They're not quite sure who the other guy is. But again, that happens sometimes. You need a fight that catches the public's imagination. And if he can look good, and which I think he will, I'm not saying he'll beat AJ, but if he can look good, then, you draw a few of those fans as well. Before we wrap on this section, we don't fence it. We don't have splinters in our backside. You were very kind enough to pick your winner on Saturday night, on fight night. People might not have heard
Anthony
that.
Joshua between rounds 5 and 8. But I'm not ruling out that Dubois could do it.
Okay, I'm going for AJ. Yeah, around that. I'm going to stick with what you just said there, 5 and 8. I wouldn't be shocked if it happens a bit earlier.
If I have to pick one round, it's round 6.
If I have to go for one round, it's 4. I'm going, a tad bit earlier. I'm going to go 4 for AJ to get it done. Because if Daniel Dubois is still standing after 6, we might have a problem if you're an AJ fan. Because Dubois has got stamina for days. So it will be interesting if this does go a bit longer. All right, you're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Up next, we're going to take a detailed look at a stacked undercard. Welcome back. You're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, let's go through this fight card. Some really interesting and intriguing matchups. Domestic clashes, world title fights, world title eliminators. Quite a lot to get through. Let's start with the co-main event. Tyler Denny versus Hamza Shiraz. Hamza Shiraz, the man of the moment, arguably one of Frank's best fighters and most popular fighters. He's really growing his brand as well. Tyler Denny, coming off a good win last time out, European middleweight champion.
Well, it's number 37 in the world against number 3, isn't it, at the moment? Yeah.
Wow. Is that what Tyler Denny is, number 37?
I think you pointed it out, and I agree with you. It might have been you that said it. He's beaten 5 unbeaten fighters, which I think is a major thing for Tyler, for one. And he's risen Felix Cash, Matteo Signa, Brad Paul, sorry.
Yeah.
Bradley Ray, River Wilson Bent, Derek Assars, Linus Idafia. All of those guys were undefeated when he fought them. So, in fact, he might have. Nobody lost to Linus, so apologies. But he's really risen recently. He's a much shorter man. And I sat down with Hamza Shiraz yesterday, and he's so confident. And he looks about 6'5" now. I don't know if you saw Hamza yesterday, but he looks in fine fettle.
He does, and for someone that's got a really bad weight cut, that's actually pretty good.
Exactly. I agree. And how he's not going to last much longer at 160 pounds, in my view. It's going to take too much out of his frame. But the fight itself, Tyler Denny is a Cinderella man. He's a rocky story, and he'll bring the house down if he wins. But I just think Hamza's too good.
Yeah, no, Hamza's too good. Tyler Denny's a true story of a fighter that's come up the hard way. Not really had that big promoter push. No sort of standout amateur background to then get that push. So he's had to do it the difficult way, and he's done it. He's done it incredibly well. And he's taken fights when he has been in the underdog. He's gone into fighters' backyards. So he's as you say, is a true Cinderella story. But that story, I think, stops on Saturday. I think Hamza's just too good. And this isn't disrespecting Tyler in any way, shape, or form, but I think Hamza is already, for me, a guy you can put in a world title fight tomorrow. And I expect him to cause the world champion problems, whoever it is. So I think Hamza gets through this one. I think he stops Tyler Denny sort of mid to late. Might come through some early issues, but I think Hamza sort of stops Tyler. All right, next one. This is interesting, this one, because there's a lot of story around it. Anthony Kakache versus Josh Warrington. Now, the story, or the emergent story, I'm sure you know, Gareth, is the IBF basically saying we might not sanction this fight.
They're not.
And I kind of get it as well. I mean, Josh Warrington's lost 4 of his last 5, and he's coming up a weight class to fight the champion. So there will be no title at stake. It's still an intriguing fight. Josh, we know, can bring it, and he's got so much more experience in big fights than Kakache. But I can understand why the IBF has said
and also again, I'm looking at the rankings. There's a reason why that. Now I think Josh is now 41 in the world at super feather. That's where he's ranked. And let's be honest. And Kakache's at 7. Let's be honest. The IBF never play ball. They don't. They of all the sanctioning bodies, they don't play ball. It's up to them how they do it. But I got their email yesterday on this from Jeanette Salazar, their PR person. Instead of just saying no IBF title will be on the line, there were reams and reams of rules and keep it simple, guys. I was laughing with Anthony Kakache about it, the Apache. I was saying, so no IBF title on the line then. I think the IBO is on the line, by the way, instead.
Okay.
And he said, I know, I've been reading that email. He said, I was sitting in the car reading it, and eventually I went down and down, I got to the point. You know, how to confuse an already confusing situation. But I do get them on this occasion that they didn't think Warrington should be a viable challenger, you know?
No, I get it as well. I mean, obviously Warrington, who's had the IBF belt a couple of times at feather, it's disappointing for him, the opportunity to become a legit 2-weight world champion, but it won't take away from what would be an incredible, I think, career best win. And I'm saying that knowing about the Selby and the Frampton wins, I think this would be incredible for Warrington to go up against a big, strong. Kakache is huge. Kakache is a lightweight.
He's a very long, lean fighter, isn't he?
Really big shoulders, lean, small legs, but as we saw against Joe Cordina, very spiteful and dangerous. So I think this is a really tough ask. I'll give my prediction first. I think Kakache stops Warrington mid to late.
I agree. I think it'll be exciting as long as it lasts. But I think it will be an exciting fight. One of the things I'm looking at here, I don't think Warrington is ranked anywhere in the 4 organisations. And then, no, exactly, because
it wouldn't be
there. And I think I'm just looking at the featherweight rankings. Well, I don't think he's there either. So, I mean, Kakache's mandatory is Eduardo Ed Nunes. So I think he was meant to defend against him. So, look, it's going to be... Josh Warrington always brings it. As I said to him yesterday, I'm your lucky charm because I'm picking against you again. And every time I've picked against you, you've won. So, but I think it'll be a good fight as long as it lasts. And I agree with you. I think Kakache, round 7 or 8, something like that.
Yeah. The next one's a difficult one for me, very difficult, and that's Joshua Buatsi versus Willie Hutchinson. Just because, like, I put my hands up, I got it completely wrong with regards to Hutchinson when he fought Craig Richards. I thought Craig Richards would run through him, and that clearly didn't happen. And it's funny, actually, one of his team members, this is Hutchinson, sort of kind of pulled me aside, and because I made a video about it on my own YouTube channel saying, look, I got it wrong. And they said, we love your honesty that you admitted that you got this badly wrong. And I was like, yeah, I got it wrong, fair. I will favour Buatsi in this one, just because he's now seen how dangerous Hutchinson can be. He's seen it, right? A bit like AJ to Ngannou's, a little bit like that. I think Hutchinson's a talent. I really do. He reminds me of Billy Joe Saunders. He's got that kind of fury kind of movement about him as well. I just think Buatsi will get to him. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Buatsi is as tough as old boots. And I think eventually it will come through a storm, but he will get to Hutchinson.
I sat with Willie Hutchinson yesterday, and his confidence levels are through the roof. And it kind of switched something in me that I think I do agree with you on the things you said about Joshua Buatsi. He's extraordinarily tough. But if Willie Hutchinson dances like he did against Craig Richards and starts to play with him, you could see a potentially very frustrated Joshua Buatsi in there. I don't think he likes Hutchinson. Hutchinson's saying, I don't understand why he doesn't like me. I've done nothing to Joshua Buatsi. I picked Buatsi like you, but I just swung the other way a little bit yesterday based on Willie Hutchinson telling me he thinks he'll stop him. He won't just beat him, he'll stop him.
Yeah,
I don't think it is.
Impossible.
It's not impossible, Ade. It's not impossible.
No, Buatsi's the
he is.
Toughest.
I agree, but maybe that's a sign that Hutchinson isn't as confident as he is saying he is. But I took something away from sitting down with him yesterday, how much he's looking forward to this contest.
All right, go on then.
I still think Buatsi wins a very tough fight on points. I don't think he stops Willie Hutchinson.
Okay.
But the caveat is if Hutchinson develops a rhythm and gets ahead of Buatsi, we are going to see if Buatsi's got another pace, another gear. And he might need another gear if he gets behind in this fight on points.
Yeah, no, that's true. The one thing watching that Richards fight back is it was evident to me that Richards hadn't had a substantial amateur background like Buatsi. So I think Buatsi's maybe seen a Willie Hutchinson style before and can maybe read a few of the things, whereas Richards couldn't. So I'm going for Buatsi late stoppage in this one. I think once he really starts to go through the gears and Hutchinson maybe starts to tire a little bit, we might see some more openings that I think Buatsi can take advantage of. We'll see.
It was a unanimous decision loss for Craig Richards against Dimitri Bivol, wasn't it? But when you compare, Frank Warren mentioned this yesterday to me, when you compare how Craig Richards did against Bivol, and he did pretty well, you could also argue that Bivol coasted that victory to a certain extent. When you look at how Hutchinson did against Richards and how good Bivol is.
No, I'm not having that. No, I'm not having that.
Are you a Buatsi fanboy?
No. Oh, incredibly big a Buatsi fanboy. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. But also now Willie Hutchinson's made a fan out of me as well. I love the fact that he brings something. He stirs the pot. Boxing can be quite a boring sport with no characters. He's a character, but he's a character that can box. He's come from, to casual boxing fans, he's almost come from nowhere. And all of a sudden, we've got another light heavyweight in the mix. So as much as I respect and love Hutchinson, I do think Buatsi's just better. And I expect the better man to win. And I think that's going to be Joshua Buatsi. All right, let's move on. Two more very quickly. Josh Kelly versus Ishmael Davies. Obviously, Liam Smith out injured. This is intriguing, this one. But I don't know what I can give Ishmael Davies coming in on 6 days' notice against Josh Kelly, who's a mover, who likes to make you work. I think this can be quite difficult. Yeah, it is.
And he's also got a fight booked after Josh Kelly as well. I don't know if you know that. On 26th of October against Uisma Lima. Look, Troy Williamson is a good victory. No question about that. But Josh Kelly looked big yesterday. He looked good at the weight for me. Looked physically strong. And I think... I just think Kelly's a very, very skillful boxer. And I think he'll do very well on Saturday night. Yeah.
They've got, as you say, they've got a mutual opponent. Josh Kelly embarrassed Troy Williamson which surprised me. I remember, and you know, Ishmael Davis beat Troy Williamson as well, but he had to go through a bit to get that job done. And getting a call on 5 days' notice, as much as I applaud Ishmael Davis for taking it, it's just unless you are one of those that just literally stay in the gym every single day, it's difficult to be fit for a Josh Kelly type fighter in 5 days. I just don't see how you do it. I mean, the first struggle is to make the weight. You've got to make the weight, which is not going to be easy, and then you've got to be fighting fit. I just feel like it's almost mission impossible. So it's a win-win, I think, for Ishmael. You go in there and you look half decent. It's okay. You took the fight on 6 days' notice. You go in there and you land the punch from hell, then you never know, right? I mean, it could be red panty night, as Conor McGregor would say. So we never go. So I'm going for Josh Kelly to win.
I agree.
It might go all the way, by the way, but if not, yeah, it could go all the way because Ishmael is quite tough, but I expect Josh Kelly just to win. And finally, a man that's not really been spoken about a lot, Mark Chamberlain, not Mark, he's always spoken about, Josh Padley. I feel like Josh Padley is a bit like Mark Chamberlain in the sense that no one really knew who Mark Chamberlain was a year ago. Now we all do. Josh Padley's got a chance to make a name for himself as well. I don't think he will, but he's got a chance.
No, I think this is one of the easiest fights on the card to pick. I think Mark Chamberlain has looked better. Yeah. I think he's looked better with every performance. I think he looked great last night. He's really up for this. He's a very happy fighter. He's Turki Al-Sheikh's, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh's favourite fighter. He's got everything going for him. He cannot lose.
No, he can't. I think, by the way, I think he's actually scheduled to fight in November or December as well, Mark Chamberlain, for an interim world title. So no, you're right. This is all set up for him to get the job done. All right, there you go. Great undercard action. Some intriguing fights. Some fights a bit tougher to predict. The Boatsy Willie Hutchinson being one of them, but should be a great night of boxing. All right, you're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Up next, we're going to talk some UFC. Welcome back to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth, Ade Davies. All right, let's switch gears now and talk a bit of MMA, specifically the UFC, who made its debut in the sphere at $20 million spent, and it looked incredible. Now, I'm not talking about the fights. I'm just talking about visual. It looked sensational. It really did. By the way, I mean, did you hear that they made over 20 million on the gate?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It looked extraordinary. I'm not often used the word jealous of myself. I'm not a jealous type of person, but I was really jealous I wasn't in there because it looked extraordinary. Yeah. And when we spoke to Adam Catchell there on Saturday night, this movie was playing in there that involved the fighters, and it looked like an extrasensory perception experience. It looked amazing, and it was a one-off, so tickets were at a premium. I think they did very, very well with it. Very well with it indeed.
Do you think boxing goes there? Do you think there's a boxing event there in the next sort of 12 to 18 months?
I do. I expect there will be.
Yeah, I do think that as well. Yeah. All right, let's talk about what happened in the octagon. Obviously, the main event was Sugar Shane O'Malley versus Merab. I'm not going to try and pronounce his surname. I always butcher this. Do you want to give it a go for me?
Marashvili.
Marash, you missed that. Where's the M come from?
Here we go. It's early in the morning. Right. No, I'm going to let you do it. You're the presenter. You do it.
Look at him. Just push him. I'm going to call him Merab. We're going to say that. Merab's fine. And Merab literally just ragdolled O'Malley for 5 rounds. And it's not... I don't necessarily want to talk about the fight because it was a boring fight. It was one of those... Even Dana admitted it as well. It was boring to watch. I now believe that the UFC have a big problem. Honestly, I think they've got a big problem. I mean, the lack of superstars. And O'Malley will come back, and he's not one to shy away from things. He went on his social media and spoke about the fight immediately after. But he was going to be that guy. He was going to be the guy that carried the company for the next few years. He still could be that guy. But right now, when you go down the list and look at champions that the UFC has, you've got John Jones, who basically wants to fight Stipe for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. You got Pereira, who I think's the great Pereira, but doesn't speak any English. Like literally, it's an interesting division. Dricus du Plessis, the middleweight. Like, where are the stars? What is going on?
I don't know if we're starting to sound old when we look at the UFC, and we're always hankering back to the past, and the George St. Pierre's and the Anderson Silvas, and even John Jones is aging now. I saw him there on Saturday night with his excellency. He does. There's something old looking about his face.
Old. You know what it is? He's abused a lot. I love John. We both love John. He's abused his body. That's simply what it is. He's abused his body over the years.
And I do think he's got to be careful about fights with young, powerful heavyweights who believe in themselves, because it only takes one punch in that heavyweight division, one strike that can change it all. But I mean, I don't want to get down on the UFC because, like you say, they're an incredibly successful organization. With the WWE, I think they're worth 18 to 20 billion right now. They just had a very successful event in the Sphere. I was pleased for Valentina Shevchenko. I think she's amazing. And
she's fantastic.
The main event started in a weird way with our guy who's now the champion pointing at his opponent's corner.
Like, shut up.
Stop, I thought it was very funny, very interesting. But, he's a great little character. But I don't think he's going to become a global superstar in terms of personality. He's got a great personality. But I don't know. Maybe we've been spoilt by the McGregors. Maybe we've been spoilt by the John Joneses, even though you'd say that Jones might have wasted 3 or 4 years. It being his own undoing, but stars will rise again. They always will.
No, you're right. But there was a period, like, you only have to go back 8 years or 9 years when in the same era, same time fighting, you had Ronda, you had Brock, you had DC, you had John Jones, Anderson Silva was still around, you had GSP.
Even Daniel Cormier was there, a star.
Max. Of course he was. Absolutely. So there were so many. On the female side, there were so many as well. Right now, it just seems a bit blunt,
but I think
and a bit lackluster.
I think
one of the biggest
stars grow when you allow it to breathe a little bit as well. And I don't think there's a lot of breathing. And now people become a star suddenly because of a viral moment, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the world might have changed, Ade, in that way, and that we're going to get these shooting stars because of viral moments, and like.
That's true. As opposed to building a star organically
with longevity and with and I don't think there's going to be so much. That it's potential that potentially there isn't going to be so much longevity with MMA fighters, UFC fighters going forward either.
No, it's a good point. All right, let's quickly before we wrap. The big news of the weekend, at least in UFC minds, is that Conor McGregor won't fight Michael Chandler. That's now off. Michael Chandler has finally moved on, and well done to him for moving on as well. He's going to fight Charles Oliveira. It's an interesting one because Charles Oliveira is very, very good. Michael Chandler hasn't fought for so long. But Michael Chandler, look, and rightly so, he's been sick of waiting for Conor McGregor for whatever reason, whether it's the UFC not wanting to fight or Conor not being ready to fight. But he's missed out on this huge payday. It would have been high 7 figures. And that's no longer. And now he has to fight Oliveira for a fraction of that. Disappointed for Michael Chandler, but I'm happy that he's getting his career back on track.
It's weird because he hasn't fought since November 2022. He's 30. He's 38, Jesus. And he's 1-3. Remember, in his last 4 fights, he lost to Charles in May 2021, UFC 262. Then he lost to Justin Gaethje in a fight he could have won. Then he beat Tony Ferguson, who you'd expect him to beat, and then he loses to Dustin Poirier. So, at his age, Conor's done him like a kipper, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done him wrong. He's done him wrong. He really has. The UFC have done him wrong as well. It's just been so unfair. Again, everyone would wait for Conor. Why would you not wait? But the fact, as you say, for him to be that old, wouldn't have made much money in the last couple of years, and and has not got that fight, it's a shame. I've said this to you 100 times. I don't think we'll ever see
completely
Conor
agree.
McGregor fight.
Not
again.
in MMA anyway. Not in MMA.
And I don't want to see him fight again. No, not in MMA. I think it's done. But look, good luck to Michael Chandler. Good luck to Charles Oliveira as well. Two fantastic fighters who are definitely going to put on a show for us. Right, thank you very much. You've been listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Remember, if you've missed any of the show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcast from. We'll see you next week.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.